Good morning, everyone. Steve here. Welcome to Monday Morning Musings. We are continuing on and examining the anti-imperial nature of the Passover / Eucharist. Now, we're almost at the end of this series. Have one more little kind of side note message we're going to do, but this is close to the end. When did the meal stop becoming a Passover meal? Honesty requires us to say nobody really knows, including me. Nobody's really sure. The scriptures don't give us any indication at all in terms of specific date or like a decree was made, this stops. There are hints, but the scriptures are pretty much silent about it. Remember, the meals are related, but they're not the same. And the differences seem to develop over time. There are four main suppositions, ideas, points of view, and I just want to share them with you. You pick the one that you like. I'll tell you the one that I like. Nothing worth fighting over. It is possible that the early Jewish believers, particularly those that stayed in Jerusalem, gathered around Peter and James, that would today be known as Messianic Jews, kept the Passover elements as a once-a-year annual meal. So they would incorporate the John 6 teaching of Jesus into the once-a-year Passover celebration. That's one possibility how this was implemented. But as non-Messianic Jewish people gathered, it created a shift. People for whom, particularly the Gentiles, for whom Passover meant nothing, things would start to shift. So the more Gentilized the church got, the less it became an annual festival. And we know this because Paul makes reference to it as often as you do this. Once a year isn't often. Another theory is that at the end of the Jewish wars, when the temple was gone and essentially Jews were scattered, that started the diaspora, that it just dropped off because Passover had no context for an essentially Gentilized church. And then the fourth theory is that it was dropped quickly. And they get that mostly from Acts chapter 2 and Paul's letters, that very soon it stopped being an annual celebration and it became part of the regular communal meal at least once a week, maybe more. That when the community gathered, they gathered to eat. We've established that. And part of that eating was the Eucharist. And so there are those who would believe that, however, for whatever reason, for whatever understanding, my opinion is necessity probably was the mother of that change. We can see it in Acts chapter 6, Hellenized widows. Otherwise, the ethnic purity of the community was already changing by Acts chapter 6 and 7, and it was already causing problems. The widows are being neglected. Their needs, they're not getting fed. And so it is probably likely, my vote, that fairly early on, the teachings of Jesus in John 6 were introduced into the communal meal And that element overshadowed the Paschal elements as time progressed. So there you have it, the four main theories. Nobody knows for sure. Take your pick. But we know that it eventually stopped. Paul makes no mention of the Paschal Lamb in any of his comments about the Eucharist. Very silent about Passover. It's a couple of comments in Acts, but in the sense of his teaching, he hardly mentions it. So some shift happened very early in the history of the church, where it became a more regular communal meal and a more regular practice. And I'll see you the next time.